Don't be zoning out on us and spinning around in your chair.
Don't be rolling your eyes in the back of your head. Don't be staring at the ceiling.
Welcome to the Pretense of Justice with hosts Carmen, Roland, Sonia, and Tamika, where we discuss legal and current events, controversial issues, and all things justice as we advocate for injustice. Let the justice begin. And we are live.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the Pretense of Justice. We are so glad to have you. And we have some great news. My book will be shipping April 11th, so I'm very excited about that. If you want to get yourself a copy, please go to Amazon and order your copy. I would like to let you guys know that I am also the founder of Helping Ourselves to Transform. I am the director of Court Watch Judicial Accountability with a company called Life After Release. And I also sit on the board by invite for the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland Reentry Board. I am the chairwoman for advocacy and legislation. And I kick it to Rhonda.
Hey, peace and love, family. I am Rhonda, and I'm just kind of a jack of all trades. My passion is truth and building strong communities, and I serve as the engineer for Pretense of Justice. So I will turn it over to Miss Sonia.
Hello, well, I am Sonia and I sit on one of the boards for the Transform board, and I'm also here to give my opinion on the pretense of justice and what's going on in society today.
And I guess it's my turn now. So I am Tamika Christopher. I also sit on the board of directors as the research and resource development manager. I'm a researcher at heart. I love to look for grants and different opportunities that will help our people. In my daytime job, I am a homeschooling mother. I am also a real estate agent. And I like to help people no matter where they are. So whatever state they're in, if they're having challenges, I like to be there to help them because we do not have enough representation that looks like us in that field. And that is a big reason why we don't have the home ownership rates that we should have in comparison to other ethnic groups. So that's the space I live in. And I like to guest host on different podcasts. So you might see me on some other channels.
And please, family out there, please hit the like button. Please hit the thumbs up button and please share. And I will pass it over to Miss Tamika to start our show off this evening. Thank you.
All right. So one of the juicy topics that is being debated right now, and y'all, please forgive me if my English is not all the way there. I need a glass of water. So let me get into it immediately. I'm going to share a screen because everyone's talking about reparations and AB 3121. And I really want to get into this bill. So let's start it off here. This was approved by the governor September 30th, filed with the secretary the same day. And it basically says, the beginning part, the people of the state of California do enact as follows. Now, I just want to keep everybody knowing this only applies to California. It does not apply to the other states. One of the things that they're saying is you have to be a California resident to even be able to benefit if this bill actually goes into law. So it says, the legislator makes the following findings and declarations. More than 4,000 Africans and their descendants were enslaved in the United States and the colonies that became the United States from 1619 to 1865, inclusive. Now, I'm blinking because I'm not a professional genealogist, but I have done genealogy and I've helped other people. And I'm still trying to figure out how they are tying Africans coming in during that time. I haven't seen the proof, and I think that they're still trying to find the proof. And that's part of the reason why nothing is moving. Now, the institution of slavery was constitutionally and statutorily sanctioned by the United States from 1789 through 1865 inclusive. The slavery that flourished in the United States Constitution, an immoral and inhumane deprivation of Africans' life, liberty, African citizenship rights, and cultural heritage, and denied them the fruits of their own labor. So I'm going to pause again. This has nothing to do with the Native Americans, the American Indians, the Aboriginal people whose land was stolen, who was forced into forced servitude, whose cultural heritage was literally ripped away. This is for Africans. And like I said before, show me where the Africans are. Show me the documented proof that these people actually existed during this time period. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in. And I guess for me, when they're saying more than 4 million, and forgive me if I'm cross-eyed on that, it looks like 4 million to me, African and their descendants were enslaved, when that's not in the United States, that's not even what it's saying on the voyage slave records. It only says in the United States of America, so meaning North America, correct? It only says 300,000 were transported in the transatlantic slave trade. So transatlantic slave trade does not just exclusively includes Africans. That's number one. But to top it off, their own numbers only say 300,000. The top bodies coming in, and that means coming from Europe, yes, you have to include Europeans in that number as well as Africans. But the top number was 5 million going to South America. So by their own data, the 4 million is a far cry. I don't see it. I'm with you. They would have to prove it. So I'll yield.
I got my sip of water, and absolutely correct on that. Now, the part on A, it says having nearly 1 million Black people incarcerated, an unemployment rate more than twice the current white unemployment rate, an average of less than 1/16 of the wealth of white families, a disparity that has worsened, not improved over time. So when you're talking about the current condition of the people here in America, let's talk about that. Like all this African stuff, I'm up to here with it. Let's talk about the current condition of the so-called melanated people, Black, American, Indian. There's so many words to define it. But at the end of the day, why is it that they continuously keep bringing Africa in? And then you have all these immigrants flooding over to California, and they're looking to get a check. And it's ridiculous at this point. It's very undermining the actual colonies where all of this even took place. You have to be a resident of California to receive any of this if it does pass, whatever it is that they choose to pass. Like, come on, slavery, as we know it, existed in the 13 colonies. That's not California. And I'm not saying that nothing happened in California, but let's be honest. majority of the melanated people who would be in this category, talking about the incarceration, talking about the unemployment rate, talking about the wealth gap, where do they live? The 13 colonies mostly, right?
Exactly, because they can't afford California. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that part up. That number one, it's for the California residents. It's not including the misclassified American Indians who were classified Negro, Black, colored. How many classifications did we go through? And I'm speaking as a person who's done my genealogy, and I'm speaking from a heart of my grandma telling me that we was Indians. So I know everybody doesn't have that, but I'm speaking from that space. It's really unfortunate. A lot of the people are not taking into consideration the economic issue that would do. So $300,000 per person was thrown into the economy. What will that do to the economy? It would literally crash the economy. And then you'd have a whole bunch of people on the East Coast tearing up stuff because they're mad because the folks on the West Coast got a bag and they didn't. So I think that there's something else going on here. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. And it's a bunch of crap. So.
Well, is you were talking about, you're understanding your background. I have a piece of that in my book, or a chapter in my book about it's very important that you know thyself. And so of course, my family on my mother and father's side, we always knew where we came from. We can go generation after generation after generation after generation. And it's so funny, but I remember when my little brother and I, we took the test, the DNA test, like about 15 years ago or something like that. And so my brother had to do it for my father's side, and I had to do it for my mother's side. And so, of course, when my brother did it for my father's side, it showed that my father people came from Saudi Arabia, and then it showed that my mother's people came from Ethiopia. So my brother and I was trying to figure out, well, what about the Native American piece? Like it didn't bring that up. And so that was kind of strange. And so for me, I did some research over the years, and a lot of the tribes do not accept the DNA testing anyway. And not to mention, a lot of they're not listed in those tests, so that makes it awkward also. But it's very important that people know where they come from. But if their families did not teach them like our families did, that we were already here, it's a little difficult. And we have people in our family that are very, very light, and we have people in our family that are very, very dark. But on either way, we were told that we were already here. And it's really unfortunate that we have to hide under and I know I don't want no hate mail, don't send me no hate emails, but it's so unfortunate that we have to use or hide under African American. Now, African American, an example of an African American would be President Obama. His father was from Kenya and his mama was from wherever she, was. That's an example of a true African American. I can't say that about me. What I do know is that I'm an indigenous American woman. I am a woman of color. I am a woman whose family land was stolen. When we go back in our records, it showed that on my mother's side, they were listed as Native Americans. And then a few years later, you look, then they listed them as mulatto. And then later you look, they listed them as Negroes. And then later you look, they listed them as colored. So they literally stole from us when they created that Census Bureau. So we already know what that means. You know what I mean?
Walter Plecker, the one who started reclassifying us, but keep going.
Right. So they whatever, when you opened the door, when they came a knocking, whatever they saw, that's what they put on there. And it was so unfortunate. And to see it in writing and to see the transformation of it is so disgusting. And that's how they was able to steal our land. And I don't want no hate mail, but I'm not African American. I have much respect for the motherland, but this is the motherland right here. This is where my people came from, and I stand by that.
Absolutely.
Don't send me no hate mail. I'm not going to answer.
We better not send you no hate mail. So I want to ask you a question, because you said something that stuck out. You said that they were labeled first Native American before mulatto. Was it Native American or was it Indian? Was it an I or was it?
I can't remember if it was Native American or Indian. I can't remember, but they was recognized at first as Indian or Native American. I can't remember, but they was recognized as such.
Because it's real simple to change an I to a B. So that a lot of that was going on too.
There was a whole lot of stuff going on, and people of color in America are arguing about the wrong stuff.
Agreed.
They are, because it should be about resources, right? So if we know that wealth is defined really in land ownership and the ability to cultivate the land and the ability to pass an inheritance to your children through ownership of land, titleship to land, or being able to just freely occupy the land without being afraid of someone coming in, because our custom was not pieces of paper that said, this is mine. We were stewards of the land. So all of this paperwork about land is not even our true customs, but we just fall in line with it. And at this point, if you don't have one, somebody will come and squat on your land and they'll create one. So how do we have our own culture and being stewards of the land without their system? We're stuck in their system. So if we're going to be in their system, then they need to work with us on our terms. And we want some land. We want to be able to we want to be able to cultivate the land again, grow our own food, and have an inheritance to pass down to our children, so they won't have to go through what our parents and grandparents went through.
Because I'm tired of eating the chemicaled up food. I want to, grow my own stuff. I'm tired of eating up the fruit that lasts for months.
Yeah, I think both of you bring up excellent points, and this is just my once in opinion. So don't send a hate mail to Dr. Carmen Johnson. This is just my humble opinion. I think when folks have these conversations about reparations, I think twofolds. Number one, I think it is a distraction for talking about the real issues of the misclassification of identities in the Americas, because not only are who they calling African Americans been misclassified, but in some cases who they're calling Native Americans are also misclassified. So I think that's the one side of reparations. It's to distract from the misclassifications that were going on. And then the second piece is also to take folks away, meaning the rightful heirs / caretakers of the land, take them away from staking claim and taking a check. Because now this is just my opinion for me and mine. There isn't a check big enough for them to write. Because at the end of the day, what they are offering is not even going to last a generation. Specifically, those in California, if they take this $300,000 payoff, you can't even buy a house in California with that.
Mm-mm.
So if folks are not focused on the right thing, which is their heritage, who they really are, and really get focused on how are they going to set up their future generations, this cycle will continue perpetually. So that's just my 2 cents. Again, don't come sending Dr. Carmen Johnson no hate mail. That's my 2 cents. And I'll turn the floor back over.
And not to mention, can you touch, Tamika, on who owns the patent for the name or the words African American?
Yes. Okay. So I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It's called The Autonomous Party. And these brothers are some heck of researchers. Okay. Basically, what I learned, they learned me something. The name, the African American, that term is trademarked. African American, it's trademarked by an Asian. The term Aboriginal is trademarked. The term Native American is, American Indian is trademarked by the Muskogee tribe. The Muskogee and the Seminole trademarked American Indian. So if we're trying to be free of anybody owning any parts of us, including the labels that we use, why are we still using these labels? It's almost like putting a stamp, like you're an animal and I just branded you. I don't want to be branded by anyone. I want to brand myself, dang it.
And so which means you have to get their approval to use those titles, or am I not getting that correctly? You will be fined if you're using those titles without their permission.
Or they get some type, whoever trademarked it gets some type of residuals that we may not even know.
Absolutely.
And it's so funny, from the time that we was little, my father always told us, always check the other box. So from the time we came into this world, my dad was like, check the other box. But then what happened to me was when I was wrongfully convicted, thrown in jail. When I was telling them, they was like, you African American? No. You Black? No. They looked at me and checked Black on the box, and I was devastated. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't even listening to me. And it was just unfortunate, because I am a Indigenous American woman. I am a woman of color. I am a woman of substance. My people, majority of my people, was already here. And I don't think it's fair that our people don't even understand that other cultures have the titles that we use or that we call ourselves trademarked and are making residuals off of us each time we use it. That's an issue, that part right there. Digest that. No, I don't want hate mail, but digest that.
Absolutely. And to be completely honest, when you talk about the positions of power in this country and the people who hold the keys to the bag, you can't leave out Wale Adeyamu, who happens to be second in line at the Treasury Department. And he is first generational, born here in America, but his family is from Nigeria. So how is it that a first generational Nigerian can come over here and get that kind of power?
Exactly.
And the people who've been here can't even get close. It's a hijack. It's definitely a hijack. And I'm just in here eating my popcorn at this point, because I ain't finna argue with nobody about none of this stuff anymore. It's a hijack, and we got to realize what's really important. We got to realize the chess pieces on the board, and we're going to either decide to improve our chess piece how we can, or flip the whole board over. It's your choice. But I yield on that.
I didn't flip the whole board over, and I'm certainly not going to argue with anyone about who I am and who my people are. So y'all can be whatever y'all want to be. If y'all like it, I love it. But I know we go back generation after generation. We know our people, and I stand by that. And I'm working on. I'm working on them checking that black box on my ass when they kidnapped me and drug me off to prison.
And while they're talking about reparations, what about reparations for Dr. Carmen Johnson for what she's endured? We always like to get behind the boogeyman movement. What about the real movement? When do we start supporting the ones who've actually gone through something, that are actually fighting in real time? When do we band behind them and say, hey, I support you? We want to chase the boogeyman bag. Like, come on, this don't make no sense.
Indeed.
So yeah, they missed me with that.
Indeed.
I'm here for it.
Most people do not support women of color. Even women of color don't support women of color. But we'll talk about that topic. We're going to move on to Sonia Robinson, because you got some interesting things to talk about our babies. What they doing to our babies.
Yeah, and I before we go on to that, I wanted to make a comment about what Tamika was talking about. You got to remember back in the 1800s, it was giving everybody 40 acres and a mule, and they had no idea about money. They had no idea about any of that stuff. And how they took it was they would started debting their property up and taking it away. Now you expect people to, okay, let's go and try to give us land and let us, make it fruitful. But then you got them coming in behind us, taxing everything we do. And a lot of times we can't afford that. And they end up taking it away. I mean, and then you got people out here who so selfish, where we had property. Okay, well, I'm just going to sell it to the white man and stuff because I just want the money. And then come to find out there's nothing left. Been there and done that. And if you don't have people who's going to work together, especially with a family who wants to settle on property, you got too much greed going on. You can't take the stuff with you when you leave this place, but you do want to leave something for your kids and your grandkids and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what my grandmother did. And we fight every single day to try to keep that land in our property. And we surrounded around white people. Our property is surrounded around white people, and they're waiting for us to not pay the taxes.
Yeah.
They're waiting for
wolves,
us.
baby.
Yes. They're waiting. And guess what? If I had to use my last dollar in my pocket to pay that tax bill or whatever bill needs to be paid, it's going to get paid. Because you have to have something, just like you stated, to pass on to generations. We got houses on there. Anytime any of these kids want to go and they got stuck and needed a place to stay, they can always go home. There's no problem in that. But you got family out there, they don't have that. They don't have that safety net. And all they're worrying about is today. They don't worry about what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. And then this $300,000 they're going to give to Californians if they decide to do that. They can't even live on that over there.
Right.
What are they going to do with it? They're going to go out there, put it in the economy, and then be broke again. Where they have almost the highest rate of homeless people in that state. It's sad.
I bet they got I bet they got a Gucci bag though. They may be homeless, but they got a Gucci bag.
They have a cell phone.
I just real quick, I just want to just take this moment to honor you all for honoring your ancestors, for holding on to that land. That's so huge, so important, and just much respect to you all.
It's been in our family since, this particular land has been in our family since 1901. And I was the only sibling that was born in one of the houses that's on there. So it means a lot. Yeah. And they be trying, them white folks trying to get it. They doing every trick in the book. They doing everything. But we're a little too fast for y'all.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But anyhow, I'm moving on with I'm going to move on to the schools comparisons with prisons. And it reminded me of when I was going to high school and going to grade school, basically. And I used to always wonder why I never had any interest. I was always in a daze in school and trying to figure out what, these teachers was trying to teach me. And was that you too? And I'm like, it was like I was bored. It was something that it's not like it wasn't interesting, but it wasn't believable. And then I look back and I say, well, you know, now that I'm older and I'm like figuring out, okay, a lot of the stuff that they teach me, I have not used in the real world at all. Um, and then I decided, I said, well, let me, you know, start doing some research on the difference between schools and prisons. And we as parents, we push our kids to go to schools. And yes, you need to go to school. You need to learn. But at the same time, you need to push yourself and do your own research. You can listen to your teachers all day long, but take notes and then go back and research and see if that person is telling you what's really going on or what the history is, or if we're going to be using this math or whatever the subject may be. But there really isn't any difference between schools and prisons. I mean, you got authoritarian structures. Basically, you got guards telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You got teachers telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And if you're not following instructions, you got dress codes on both ends. You both are driven to the prison by a white bus. You're driven to a school by a yellow bus. You can't get off of it because you're supposed to be going, one is for punishment and the other one you think is not punishment, but you got to go. You cannot not go to school. It's regulated. I know here where I live at, if you do not go to school within 10 days, they come and get the parents and lock them up. You got the emphasis on silence and order. They want you in a straight line. You got to be disciplined in the prisons. You got to be disciplined in the schools. You got negative reinforcements on both ends of the system, from the schools to the prisons. Loss of individual anatomies, where you know, they only want you to focus and learn one way. And it's that way, the way the government have everything set up, that's how they want you to think. There's no crossing the line. And like I said before, you know, you got to do your own research. When you in school and you be trying to tell these kids, and sometimes they just don't listen. You can listen to the teacher, but do your own research so you can come back and rebuttal, which most of the time they don't want to hear because they think they're right. They think they didn't did their 4 and 6 years of college. They know everything. But guess what? They are programmed as well. They are programmed to tell us the same BS that they've learned, and that they don't have no freedom of choice of thinking from themselves. You got abridged freedoms on both ends of the school and the prisons, set time enforcements to walk, to eat, to sleep. So it's when people decide to wake up and see that no matter which pathway you go, they're all going to run into the same thing. But if you don't step aside and say, okay, look, let me make my own choices and figure out what's really going on. My main concern is things that they don't teach you. They don't teach you about accounting. They don't teach you about life skills. I had my stepson, he went and he said, well, I'll just take probability statistics. What the hell is probability statistics going to do for me out here in the real world? Other than tell me that it's only 40% of the blacks going to prison and the 6% going to college. That don't help me. I can care less about that.
Right.
I care about is how I'm going to pay my bills, how am I going to get out of debt, how am I have to deal with the IRS who harass you every 5 minutes for $5, but yet when you pay send your taxes in, it take them a whole year to review them and say, okay, we owe you some money, and you don't get it. That's how they're doing now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of things that people need to wake up on. I feel myself sometimes yelling at my kids about, you need to do better in school. But at the same time, when I review what they're doing, when they were homeschooled and I would listen to these teachers, I would jump into those video Zooms that they were doing with those teachers, and they straighten their behinds up. I'm like, what are you teaching them? When they was talking about the elections, and they were one-sided everything, and I'm listening to the teacher one-sided with my child, and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. And my son had sense enough to start communicating with them, saying, but what about the other side? Mm-hmm. Now, if I hadn't taught him these things, he probably wouldn't have said anything, and he would have believed what they wanted him to believe. So basically, it's very, very important for parents and kids to start waking up and start doing their own research, put the phone down, put the video games down, and start going and researching the things that you need in order for you to be successful in life. And not meaning successful where you're going to go out there and do things you ain't got no business. You got to know how to beat this system, because the system is already set up for you to fail. Whether you in prison or whether you in school, it's set up for you to fail because it's all one-sided. So,
you mind if I piggyback on you, Sister Sonia?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I was checking out some statistics, and these are pretty accurate from back in the day when I used to work with a diversion program for youth. So it says 40% of students expelled from school each year are Black. 70% of students are involved in in-school arrests. 68% of all males, this is so heartbreaking. 68% of all males in federal prison do not have a high school diploma. The yearly cost to incarcerate one child is $88,000. And the yearly cost of public education for one child is $10,000. The school to prison pipeline is exactly how it sounds. It is a system that pushes students out of the classroom and into jail. Unemployment, poverty, and crime. So we're dealing with a systemic issue that they are literally funding, but what about the diversion programs?
Right.
So, you know, it seems like they got the money for the institution to keep succeeding, but what about for the diversion programs to help these people in real time?
I'm so glad, Tamika. I'm sorry, Sonia. Tamika,
Go ahead.
I'm so glad that you sitting on the board now to help me finish our diversion program for our youth in the DMV area, to give to the DC court and Prince George's County courts in order for them to have, an option opposed to sending our babies to prison, jails, camps, and cages. And so I am so pleased that we are working on that, and hopefully this will make a difference. The other thing, well, Sonia, did you want to say something before I say something about what you got? I remember, and I have this in my book, and I must have been about in the second grade. And so in the second grade, I assume, I'm telling my age now, but I assume they had started calling people of color colored. And I remember and we were bused to like a majority Caucasian school. And it was like they started this new pilot program where they were busing the colored kids to this all white elementary school. And so, of course, my teacher was under the impression that I was a little uppity because I knew thyself. And she wanted to break me down. So she decided that she wanted to talk about the fact that, people of color, colored people were slaves, and that we enjoyed being slaves, and that we were poor, and all of this stuff. And I was an introvert, and I was very quiet, and, grew up in Pentecostal, and, had my little prayer cloth on my head and my long skirt, and my little Bible at my desk. And she was going on and on trying to humiliate me. And so all the white kids looking at me, and she was like, and the white people, they love being the slave masters and all this other kind of stuff. And I told her that this can't be true. I'm like, my parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents, we ain't talk about this. This can't be true. And she kept saying, it's in the book. Read the book, Carmen. She kept saying, read the book. And I'm like, I don't want to read that book. And it's in history, and it made me think of his story. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And then the other thing is, and I don't want no hate mail. The other thing is, I'm so-and-so age now. I want you to show me a slave ship. I want you to show me. I want you to tell me where. I want somebody, if you want to write me or call me, I want you to tell me where the slave ship at. I want you to tell me How did we get from over there, over here with no clean water, no food at the bottom of a hot ass boat? I want you to prove it to me. At the Library of Congress, it tells what was really going on. But I remember that teacher doing that to me. That was my first nervous breakdown. I started hollering, screaming, yelling, fell out on the floor because in my DNA, I'm not saying that there was not slavery. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is they were slaves too.
That part.
They're not telling that part either.
Part.
So is all this his story. Michael Jackson was saying they talking about his story, and people don't understand that. And people that our people are believing the hype. This is why we can't get reparations. Is because we're believing we didn't drink the Kool-Aid, and it pisses me off. It makes me mad. And the other thing is, and Sonia, I like the fact how you told your stepson, why would you take that class right there? For me, I chose business management because I had an entrepreneur spirit. So in my mind, that made sense for me to take business management. The second thing was to take theology because I believe in spirituality. So that was my thing, to take theology in school. And then the other thing was to take philosophy. You know, I love philosophy. And then I studied Greek and Latin. And then I went from there and I started studying metaphysics and science of the mind and mental science. All that stuff makes sense to me for my life. But to go to school and choose something that you can't use when you come out and you look like us, that don't make no sense. And I rest at that. Oh, thumbs up if you like us, share.
And before you jump in, sis, Sonia, brother Charlie, and shout out to the YouTube chat. We have brother Charlie. He was in the house early. We also have sis Charmaine. So peace and love to all of you in the chat, and peace and love to the YouTube family that's watching. But brother Charlie brought up a good question. I think it's very important. He wants to know where are the programs for our youth? So I'll let Sis Sonia put something on the conversation, and then we'll circle back to his question. But I want to make sure we answer his question.
Well, first off, there is programs out there, and I'm not familiar with all the states. I know where I am in the state of South Carolina. They have like a father-son program where men volunteer to go into the schools and work with the young boys who are fatherless or don't have fathers in their life or father figures. So they do have those programs, and I'm pretty sure they have them across the United States. But the problem is we don't have enough of it. We don't have enough of people who want to volunteer to be that voice and help these kids. I I get kids come to my house all the time, and I don't treat them no different than I treat mine. And I just had a female just call me maybe about today, and she used to live next door, and she had a lot of issues growing up because she didn't have a father. Now, I'm not no man, but however, I'm going to steer you in the right direction. And she called me today, and she was asking me how I was doing, just checking on me. And I was checking on her as well. I'm like, you got to get involved. It doesn't matter who child it is, as long as you ain't putting your hands on them. But it doesn't matter who child it is. Anything that you say that's going to be positive in a child's life, push it out there. If I see a child in the grocery store and they just running their mouth with their mother or whatever the circumstance may be, I'm going to jump in because Carmen, I talk to everybody. I don't care who it is. I talk to everybody. And it's not like I'm just being nosy. It's like you got to know who you're dealing with. And these kids need help. These kids need something to look forward to, and not just the plain, the blinders, because every child is different.
Absolutely. I want to piggyback on your excuse me on your answer. I have a lot of children, and one of the things that I realized is getting them active in what they're interested in. So like my daughter, for example, she's into arts, anything artsy. So she wanted to try out for a play. Someone told me about a play. And so I took her to try out, and I said, I'm gonna try out too. This is something I can do with her, and I will be able to impact other people while I'm there, because I'm gonna be that light in that room, right? So end up trying out for the play. Why they cast me for the leading role? I said, hold on, wait a minute. I got to remember all these lines. I ain't signed up for this. But it's like, me and her can practice together now. So it's not so much sending your child to a program, but being involved in your child's life in whatever program that they want to be a part of. Same thing with my son. He wanted to play baseball. I was talking to the folks on the phone. They was like, well, we're short 2 coaches. If you can help us. I was like, yep, his daddy a coach. I called daddy. Daddy's like, what the hell you signed me up for? I did not sign up for this. I said, yeah, you did. I signed you up. You gonna goddamn coach that? Coach. Get your behind out there and coach. So sometimes we have to push our men to do the best thing. It is the best thing. He ended up enjoying it more than the baby enjoyed it. So gotta try new things and don't be afraid to get out there.
Well, if I could piggyback off of that, and from the ugly side of it, and that's the fact, like, as the director of Court Watch Judicial Accountability, I've sat in over 3,700 bond review hearings, and including waiver hearings with or I don't like the word juveniles, but our babies being, we're trying to get them into juvenile court opposed to them being tried as adults. And so what I do notice, and it's so disgusting, when it is a Caucasian youth, the police officer drive them to the juvenile detention center. So if you're driven, to my understanding, if you're driven to the juvenile detention center, you're automatically tried as a juvenile. But if you're driven to the police station, you're tried as an adult. And so for me, most of our police officers in DC and Maryland look like us. So wow. That's an issue. Okay, that's an issue. And then you get into the bond review hearings. Let's talk about that. And if the few Caucasian kids that you see, the courts already got, hey, we're gonna send this kid to drug treatment, anger management, is a bed ready, We'll let the Uber drive them there and all kinds of stuff like that. They got the plan, they got it all planned out. But then when our baby of color is standing there, nobody, no defense, no judge, nobody got no program that they can send them to, nothing. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, what is really happening here? You know what I mean? It's like, and then we, most of us, of color grew up in families where we didn't talk about criminal law and what to do and what not to do, and what's the plan B, and what's plan C and all kinds of stuff like that. But these kids know every rap song, but they don't know what to do. The parents don't know what to do. The parents should be saying, hey, my kid got an anger management problem. My kid got problem. And there's this program over here. Can we get the judge to agree to send my kid to this program here? So there are some programs out there. It's just that our children don't get an opportunity to exercise those programs. They're not told about the programs. They're not given the opportunity to explore the program. I mean, none of that. I see this all the time. It blows my mind. Like, I just want to just scream. And the numbers are just growing. And not to mention, nobody's talking about, everybody wants to talk about, and I got to say the word, the black man and the black boy, but they're not talking about, what about the little girls? Bingo. What about the little girls? They are going to jail quicker than the white girl, the white boy, the black boy. Trust me when I tell you that. I sit in them courtrooms. I know what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know what's going on in your point where you at in the country, but on this side of town, the The little girls that look like me is going to jail. And that's an issue. And no one cares. Who cares about the woman of color? Who cares about that female of color? Not even the female of color care about the females of color. Trust me when I tell you that. And I rest my case.
Whew, that was a very powerful point, Carmen. And again, this is my 2 cents. Don't come sending her no hate mail that's directed towards me. But my 2 cents, all of these issues that we're discussing, to me, the fundamental of them is definitely family, having strong foundational families, and having a strong sense of community. Like when Sis Sonia said, and it reminded me of, grandma / big mama and them, it didn't matter whose child you was. If you was walking down that street doing bad, now that's just from my generation. Somebody's big mama was going to step out and tell you about yourself, and in some cases, put a switch to your behind. If you were hungry, you knew you can go to such and so's mom and them house because they always had food, and you were always welcome. You felt safe. And to me, we can only fix our problems. And you fix them by building strong families, so in the household, and then strong communities looking out for each other, holding each other accountable. So again, don't send Dr. Carmen Johnson to hate. That's my 2 cents, and I'll yield.
And just to piggyback on what you said, that's why diversion programs have to be holistic. They cannot just include the child. It has to include the whole family. Because if you working with a child and then you send them back home and the home environment is toxic, it just reverses everything you just did.
Exactly.
And that is where we keep going wrong with our programs. It's like, oh, we're just going to deal with the child. The child still got to go home.
Exactly.
So what you just said, right on it. It's got to be, we got to look at it for what it really is. It's a family issue. And we also got to look at how we opening up our legs and who we're opening our legs up to.
Child.
Why we're opening up our legs.
I co-sign that. You don't send it to Dr. Carmen. You can send that to me. I co-sign that.
And men, same thing. Stop sticking your pencil in every sharpener because you think you need your pencil sharpened. Okay, you ain't got to stick it in all the pencil sharpeners. Sometimes you leave that thing flat now until you find the right pencil sharpener.
That's all you can really afford to do, but I'm sorry, I'll shut up.
Back in the day, what I remember my grandmother and great-grandmother and them talking about, they wanted to know who your people and who your people.
Exactly.
Who your people.
That's right.
They needed to know what was going on. Are you crazy? Are you deranged?
Exactly. Do you put your hands on folks? Exactly.
Do you like to work? Are you a drug addict? Like, what's going on? And nowadays, that's not, everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants to be free to do whatever they want. Everything you do has a consequence.
That's right.
And I want to also bring back the family thing. Another dangerous thing that I see in the courts is if that child, let's say that the child doesn't have a good family structure and they put in the foster care. If that child is in the foster care system and whatever then happened and they find themselves in front of a judge, they not getting out on bond. They not getting out, period. That's an issue. I remember seeing a 13-year-old little, beautiful chocolate little girl. They had to put a little box up there for her to stand up because we do the courts by Zoom. And they had to put a box up there so she can stand up there. You still couldn't hardly see her, 13 years old. And because she was in the foster care system, they held her without bond. And I'm like, oh. So I don't know no one that looked like us have an excuse to not be a good parent.
Agreed.
And if you can't be a good parent, get other family members to assist and help. Like we in 2022, we know that the police are gunning our people down to the ground. We know this. You know what I'm saying? We know that we are being arrested and put in involuntary servitude and into slavery at an alarming rate. We know this. What's going on here? Like, we don't care about ourselves.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing. We don't care about ourselves. But if you know thyself, then you care about yourself.
That's interesting that you bring that up about that baby. She didn't have family representation, basically, so they're like, oh well, you don't get no bond. And I just remember, and I know I'm dating myself with the age, but whatever. But that was just unheard of, that if the mother and the father could not take care of the child, that they went into what they're calling foster care. That was unheard of. It was the auntie that stuck up, jumped in. And if she had a lot of dramatization or whatever going on, Big Mama was going to jump in. And I ain't that old, y'all. What happened? Where's the pride for any one of your nieces and nephews to be in a foster care system? That would never happen on my watch.
Same here. I mean, I'm fortunate for my family. We have never had to go through that situation. But I always tell, my sister, my aunties, like everybody, like, if it comes down to it, y'all call me and send the children here for the summer if y'all need a break. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we have to do for each other. That's really what family is for. We're supposed to be that close to where we can help each other. And it's just so unfortunate that it's not that way.
Right. And even if I ain't liking you, what that got to do with the babies? I could still not like the way you moving, but it's about that next generation, and I just don't understand it. I really don't. And we can only pull ourselves out of this current crisis. We cannot depend on government and other outside forces. It's just not going to happen. And we can turn it around. We have to hold each other accountable, build strong families and strong communities. That's the only way out. So I'll shut up, y'all. Sorry.
I mean, I'm not trying to be the negative Nancy about it all, but it's very difficult in these times with these kids growing up now. I mean, it's totally different. You got the government allowing these drugs to float into our system, into our communities now. These people are getting more addictive to, things that, I mean, people are dying. Fentanyl, you got people going online every single day. Their child has dying from these different drugs that they're allowing to come in this country. Hey, you got your own president who's giving out pipes. Come on, man. What do we need to do in order to get the parents, because a lot of these parents who do have these issues, and it may trickle down to their kids. So we ask ourselves, if they have no control of their house because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, whatever it may be. For instance, it was a couple of girls just the other day, I was looking on the news. They just beat up an elderly woman. I'm confused. They look like there was like 12 or 13-year-old girls. What do we do? They're bored. I'm just trying to figure out what the problem is and how can we come together as a community and cross this United States to get things back on track? Because if we don't, it's only going to get worse. I mean, sometimes I'm not going to tell you no lie. I don't go to the gas station at night. There's a lot of places I don't go at night because these kids are so bored. They have nothing to do. There's not a lot of activities for them to do that's positive. I mean, and it is, instead of them doing something positive, they out there wreaking havoc on the community because they're bored. And they have no one to tell them, okay, what you're doing is not right. Because the parents work on doing things they ain't got no business doing.
I would say, go ahead, Dr. Carmen.
I personally think I don't want no hate mail. Don't send it to me because I'm not going to read it. But I really do think that a lot of secret encoded messages are on the TV, are in the video games, and are in the music. And the music that was like from the 70s on back, it had a certain frequency and vibration, and the frequency and vibration is different nowadays. So those messages are being programmed in our babies and adults' heads. And that, and with me, a scholar of metaphysics and science of the mind, I'm emphatical about this. Now, have I ran a test on everybody in America? No. But based on my studies and based on my research, this is emphatically happening. Remember, the United States protected a lot of the German soldiers and scientists. They brought them over here. You know what I'm saying? And so they learned and mastered mind control and those messages, those encoded messages and all of that kind of stuff. That happened. If you don't believe me, Google it.
Repetition, the power of repetition. You know, just go back to grade school. You sung your ABCs how many times a day? You know, when you're teaching your children their multiplication, it's all repetition constantly. So that's how it is with the music. If they listening to their favorite song over and over, and it's talking about degrading women and Percocet, Molly Percocet.
Child, if you can understand them, that but
and you got the Native American flute just playing in the background, which I think is just an abomination to our culture. Future making that song called Mask Off with the lady playing the American Indian flute, you know, screaming Molly Percocet. I'm not going to call these rappers out by name, but that's just one song that just really pissed me off because that flute was so beautiful in that song. But yeah, to hear the repetition of it, that's what it's doing, is programming them on the cellular level. Yeah. It's and they know it, but they don't. How do you stop someone from making this music? They're free to do what they want to do. So when does the community say, hey, stop doing this? And I think there was a movement before where they were telling them to stop. It's been so many movements to try to get these rappers and artists aware of what they're doing. And they sell us out every time because they want that money.
Well, you know, thank goodness, my parents were, I'm going to emphatically say that my parents were absolutely geniuses. And I remember, just to piggyback off what you just said, I remember when my father, because, he was like, okay, what's your ABCs? And I'm just flowing through it, the ABCs, I got it down packed. And dude gonna tell me, say them backwards. I beg, excuse me?
You know, that's old school. No, I gotta know that you know it. You ain't gonna sit up and memorize.
Yeah, Dad hit me with saying backwards. Say what backwards? What you talking about? I couldn't believe that. And I had to literally learn how to say my alphabet backwards. I don't know if I ever made it to A, from Z to A, but I remember that, like, my father was just amazing. My mom was like, they were just really, really from another planet. You know what I mean? But I remember that. I'm like, dude, what you talking about? You kidding me right now? I'm in kindergarten. You messing up my flow.
We got a couple comments. Brother Charlie says, yes, very true. Local wise, they done stripped all the kids' basketball courts and putting up more soccer field. No one in my city of Hampton, Virginia plays soccer. Shake my head. And so, Brother King, B says, when you, since Carmen was talking about the United States bringing over the Germans, he just referenced Operation Paperclip. So yeah, we know what that program was about with all of the mind control and the testing, etc. So if y'all not familiar what we're talking about, Operation Paperclip is what you need to Google, and child, get ready. Sis Doreen says, I'm a witness to the subliminal music. So absolutely. So thank you all for your comments. We appreciate y'all putting something on it.
I want to comment to Charles in regards to they just putting up soccer fields. Well, he must have forgot that Venus and Serena was the first tennis black players, because daddy obviously was working, I guess, at a country club and seen all the white kids playing tennis. So get out there and teach them kids some soccer and let them be the first black soccer players to ever play. If they're going to put it out there, teach them how to play it.
I'm a soccer coach, so I'm a bit biased.
I'm a basketball. We do basketball here.
It's a hard sport. They train very hard in soccer. I had a soccer trainer, child. They train hard.
Yes, we do.
All right, so I'm going to, I need you guys to hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, and hit share. So that's very important to me. But I would like to, on our last, few minutes, I want to talk about people that are innocent and that find themselves in the justice system. And of course, I'm always talking about that because that's my passion. And I've had activists say to me, why do you say you innocent? No one cares that you're innocent, And I've had people say, well, I did what I did, so why you gotta say you're innocent? And what I learned when I went to that prison camp is that the guards, the inmates, which I hate that word inmate, but the guards, the inmates, the staff, they do not like people that maintain their innocence. Not to mention the feds can't stand your ass when you refuse to take a plea. And I refused to take a plea. And I didn't think that it would be so difficult coming home trying to get my name back and to find vindication. I was emphatical about going to the Supreme Court twice. I gotta win. I'm paying all this money. Well, my family's paying all this money. I going to the Supreme Court. That's the law of the land. I'm going to win. They're going to see what it is. And I remember one of the things that the second time around in the Supreme Court, which was last year, the Supreme Court said, well, a jury of her peers found her guilty, so we're going to go with what the jury said. And so I'm like, but it wasn't a jury of my peers. So that's that issue. So I'm a bubblegum net right there on the wall. So that was that issue. And so I was devastated with that. And then coming home and trying to get with different groups and organizations to stand with me, to help me with my petition and to help me get in front of the president, to try to get some type of, what was the petition, Sonia, to get a pardon. And of course, I couldn't get any support. I mean, it was just a mess. And then that's when, of course, I realized that, people was okay with men of color spending 20, 30, 40, 50 years behind bars and then coming out saying, hey, I've been vindicated. What? So I have to stay in jail that long in order for people to stand with me? Wow. Like that doesn't make sense to me. And I remember a person, a female, an older woman who her uncle is a very famous person. And I remember her telling me, well, Dr. Johnson, you didn't spend enough time in jail and we're only dealing with people who spent 8, 10, 15 years. I'm like, but yo, I'm innocent. Like, So you guys are not going to help. I spent 3 years, I was abused in there physically. Y'all not going to stand with me. Only thing I can tell you is to keep fighting. And I'm like, keep fighting? What are you talking about? I had no idea that the journey was going to be so hard, trying to get vindication, trying to get support, trying to get the love from the community. I went to a jail, prison, camp, and cage for my community. And then when I think about the second time going to the Supreme Court and how, I was asking, some people, would you do an amicus brief for me? Because amicus briefs are important for the judges to see. Couldn't get that. I went to the Supreme Court this second time around, not one letter, not one person wrote a letter. Not one person. And then here it is, it's going on 3 years and I'm still fighting for my community. I'm still fighting for the people that I love so much. I'm still standing with my people. You know what I mean? And it blows my mind. And I've sat and I've read the pardon packet over and over and over and over again. It's no way that I can fill out this pardon packet. First of all, you got to be out for 5 years. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they say, okay, petitioner was convicted on a plea of, plea, I didn't take a plea. So I can't fill that spot out. And then it says, okay, so are you remorseful for what you've done? Remorseful? I ain't do shit. I'm remorseful that I had to leave my family. I was drug away from my family. My life stopped. My work stopped. My money stolen. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not remorseful. Are you asking us for forgiveness? Do you feel bad for what you did? Are you rehabilitated? These are the questions in the pardon packet. Rehabilitated, remorseful, I'm the corpus delicti. I'm the victim here. So here it is now, I'm being victimized by organizations who getting all this grant money, who's supposed to be there for our people. But because I'm not a man of color, I've even had women say to me, you don't look like you've been through nothing. Well, what the fuck do I supposed to look like? What do I supposed to look like? What do I supposed to look like? I had long hair, had to cut the shit off. Like, what do I supposed to look like? What do I supposed to look like? So I done been through it. And I keep going through this pardon packet and I'm like, I can't do shit with this. I can't do anything with it. There's no way I'm going to sign this just to get a pardon. And so I read somewhere where they say, it take about 20 years to get vindicated. I'm just flabbergasted. I'm devastated. I sat on a panel with someone, or we recorded a panel last week. And so the woman was talking about how, she got her commutation from President Clinton and how all of her, everybody band with her and and she was part of this drug thing with her husband or whoever and And I said, I was offended because here it is, you did the shit. And then you got commutation from a president and I can't even get anybody to do one letter to send to the Supreme Court for me. No, I'm not going back to the Supreme Court. I'm not going back to my oppressors. But just the whole point, I am just so baffled. And then I ask myself every morning when I get up, Carmen, sometimes I say Ramona, sometimes I say Tootsie Baby, what are you doing? Every morning I get up to help my people. Every single morning I get up to make sure nobody go through what I've been through, whether they are guilty or not. My biggest heart goes out to the people that are sitting behind that wall that's innocent. Some type of commission needs to be set up for people that are emphatically innocent. Prosecutors, should not be immune to when they lie, cheat, and steal. Judges should not be immune to when they know the prosecutors are lying, cheating, and stealing. Defense attorneys should not be begging you to take a plea for some shit you didn't do. So I'm confused. I'm so frustrated.
You're not confused. You get it. They're confused. They're confused and they have cognitive dissonance because they have this thing called pussy in their blood. That's what it is. So you're not confused. You get it.
So I guess I'm supposed to look like a monster. I'm supposed to have slashes all over my face. I don't know. I don't know. Like I'm supposed to, it's an insult to say that I'm innocent. So that's an insult to you because you really did it. It's not an insult to me. I'm going to keep saying this the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to, if I got to say that, they say don't say nothing. Why? I'm innocent. This is my story. These are the facts.
Is exoneration the same thing as what you said? What was the word? The application.
Vindication and exoneration only can happen in the court. Pardons can only happen with the president.
Got it.
So just to make sure that I'm understanding properly, to get that pardon, excuse me, you have to basically say that you're guilty and you're remorseful.
Well, the pardon packet.
Okay.
But the president can just pardon you. But I haven't been in the president's office and counted how many pardon packets on his desk or how many pardons on his desk, requests of pardons on his desk. But I hear it's about 100,000 of them. You know what I mean? And I hear that he is pro-government. So
yeah, because he's the one who signed that crime, the drug crime bill.
Yeah, back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course he pro-government and pro-oppressor.
Yeah, he signed the bill, but then gave out money to buy crack pipes.
Yeah, I still.
Did he really do that? Did he really?
Oh, he did it. Y'all lying.
I don't know if he did it, but didn't he talk about it? I don't want to lie on the man, and forgive me up in the
I don't believe
it. He did talk about it. That they
crack
were going
pipes.
to
out of all the things that's needed, crack pipes
and needles. Yes, he was going to fund needles and crack pipes, keep people from going.
So, do you sure he said that, or was that just?
I say people look it up for yourself and see, but it was big.
They was trying to include it in some relief
package
or something.
They were trying to include it in the bill. But hell, his son needed help, so I guess, you know.
Ooh, child, shots fired, but I mean, it is what it is.
Send the hate mail to Sonia.
They hurt my feelings.
So I'm not Democrat or Republican. I none of y'all ain't getting my vote. And y'all ain't. I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
Right. Realize that they votes don't. You can go to the box all you want to, but when you got them going and picking the president ahead of time and making you feel like you're important, go right on ahead. I don't have.
I heard Trump was still the president. He never seen it.
Well, they say that he's still the president of the corporation, but I don't know. I don't look into that. I don't even, let's be clear, y'all. I don't watch the news. So that's me.
Right.
But I do read the newspaper. My dad had me stand in the middle of the floor for a long time. So I do read the newspaper. I do that, but I don't watch mainstream news.
Yeah.
No.
Brother Charlie says there's no amount of money you can compensate someone who is convicted of something they did not do. Time is priceless.
That's right.
Indeed, brother. Indeed.
The Central Park 5, didn't they get a nice little lump sum though? The Central Park 5?
Yeah, but one of the brothers, he's still the one that was public and went on a little reality show, this, that, and the third. he's still traumatized with that. It's like what's that disorder, y'all, where the men from war, yeah,
PTSD.
yeah, he has that. He's still traumatized.
I got it too. I can't stand police to ride behind me. Like y'all have no idea. I got PTSD from living in the South with racist police
Yeah.
officers. This day, I started shaking, and I know I didn't do nothing wrong because I don't do wrong things. Like
Right.
you know what I mean. But if they was to pull me over and see me like that, they would assume the worst before even trying to figure out, like, okay, what's wrong with this lady? Motherfuckers, you was wrong with
Right.
me. You got a bald head, your eyes is blue, you got a gun, like you.
Right. And you know, as Sis Carmen was, talking about the pardon and stuff and how people are like, you don't look like you've been through enough. What came to my mind is, if you get like mass attention for what was done to you, just because of the way you look, just because of your educational background, just because of you were a business owner, that would
Yes.
send ripples through how broken their justice system really is. So now this is my opinion. Y'all don't be sending her the hate mail. This is my opinion. To me, that is the real reason why they keep your stuff suppressed. Because it's easier to put people in the spotlight. Yeah, I really did do it. I really did move them keys, me and my old man, and I'm reformed. Versus putting up a pure case like yours where you are innocent. And to me, that's the truth they don't want to talk about. Now again, don't y'all send her the hate mail. This is me. Shame on all of you organizations, you big organizations, getting all of that money, and you're picking and choosing what cases to highlight. You are part of the problem, because if you were really serious about it, you would pick her type of case to really, really spotlight the damage that is done and the innocent lives that are being destroyed. So I'll pause and shut up.
Yeah, I'm in mental health therapy every single Friday by Zoom. For almost 4 years, I sit right in front of this screen every Friday, 9 a.m. So don't call me at 9 a.m. because I'm in therapy. PTSD, anxiety, all of that. So not only is time stolen, but your mind is messed up. Like I have to plan to really go out. Like, I have to, I get my groceries ordered. Like I can't deal with crowds. I like, universe, when will I be able to go to a concert? I don't know. Like when will that be able to happen? And it's not fair. But the universe moves in mysterious ways. And I remember when I got the phone call, I remember my attorney, and I asked him right before he filed in the Supreme Court this last time, I said, "Are you scared?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay." And then I saw that weak ass filing that he filed. And he supposed to had co-filed with or wrote with Judge Joe Brown. And of course, he didn't allow Judge Joe Brown the opportunity to even review or look at it. The attorney sent it to me like 24 hours before, something like that, Sonia, to review. And I'm like, well, did you let the judge look at this? You let Judge Joe Brown look at this? Like, what's going on? But he didn't. And then I remember when, we got the word that, I was denied. And he calls me and say, I'm on my way to Spain for 30 days. And I'm like, okay, so you've been in my life all these years. So, okay, the government done paid you off and you're on your way to Spain. And I'm stuck with sitting here trying to figure out what's my next move. What's my next move? But I remember thinking, and that was in April, I was thinking, I wonder why I'm not upset. I wonder why I'm not hurt. And then, of course, Helping Ourselves to Transform is located in Washington, D.C. And we registered the business as a foreign entity in Maryland. And 2 weeks after I registered the business in Maryland, it was 2 weeks later, I get this email and I open it up and I see the U.S. Attorney's logo and I'm like, I start hyperventilating. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, let me calm down a second. Let me calm down and read this. Like, what's going on here? And I slowly read it and they were like, we would like for you to come to this meeting. And I'm like, meeting? So I emailed back, okay, I'll do it. I'm thinking to myself, how did I get my email? What's going on? So I said, I'll come. They sent me the link the day before, that morning of, and I got on there and they was like, hey, we want you to be a part of helping us set up a re-entry program. And I'm looking around like, okay, this is the same office that lied and cheated me out my life, my time, my mind. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I realize now, it's a blessing. And I forgive my oppressors. And I don't want anyone to think, me as a practicing Buddhist, that I hate anyone, because I could never hate anyone on this planet. I can't hate an animal. I don't know what I'd do if I seen a snake crawl across the floor or a roach crawl across the floor. I don't know what I would do, because
All right, that roach is gone with me, but keep going.
Roach is done.
But I operate through love. And like I said, now I understand why I wasn't hurt when I got that second denial in the Supreme Court. And so for me, being in this position, chairwoman of advocacy and legislation, I may not can help me, but I can make sure what happened to me not happen to people in the state of Maryland. And I can also ask the head fed, hey, is this man doing 20 years? Is this woman doing 20 years? They family emailed me or wrote me or called me and said that they family members emphatically innocent. Can we open up this case and find out what went wrong or what's happening? So I thank the universe for being in this position, and that the head fed office had invited me to be a part of this and help build and create this. So I don't want anybody to think I'm angry. I'm hurting. I am hurting. But I need to be able to help so many others, and that's where I stand at.
Wow, that's a great note to end on. So before I guess we can, before we go to last words, Dr. Carmen, did you want to tell the family about your book, where they can get it at, and also how they can help with the nonprofit organization HOT?
Yeah, I can say a little, that I can kick it over to Tamika real quick. So yeah, the book is going to start shipping on April the 11th, and you can also go to Amazon to get a copy of the book. And it's not just a jail or prison book. It also tells about my family. It tells, how, growing up and what it was like. It tells who I am today, and how that sabbatical, that experience, made me even bigger and better than who I was before I went on that sabbatical. And the book really talks about love and forgiveness and honesty and integrity and being true to yourself and not taking a plea for something you didn't do. And I kick it to Tamika.
So my last words is just, your story breaks my heart every time I hear it. So that's why I'm here, to support you first and foremost.
Thank you.
Why I call you auntie. Because that's how we were back in the day before colonization. We looked out for each other, and we cared for one another in an authentic way. And my other thing is, I know I said something about the bald-headed, blue-eyed police officer. Don't get it twisted. It could be a melanated police officer too. I'm still gonna be kind of shook up, because your own people will do it to you sometime.
Sometimes. I got a whole chapter on that. Don't forget about the dream catchers.
Yes, that's my last part. My daughter and I make dream catchers. It's our peaceful protest, to let people know that, you know, who we are as far as our heritage. Yes, we have many branches of our tree, but American Indian is one of them. So we honor our ancestors in that way by making dream catchers. And we decided that we wanted to support helping ourselves by selling dream catchers and donating a portion of that to helping ourselves. So we want to thank the ones that supported us.
Thank you.
I was supposed to be working on a picture collage of the people, but I'm just going to shout their names out. So Brother Back for What's Mine's out of Savannah, Georgia. We appreciate you, brother. And then Auntie and Uncle Sean and Auntie Lisa. They're from our Truth Uncompromised show family. Thank you for your support. And then my cousin Brenda and my grandmother and my auntie. I love y'all to pieces. Thank you so much for your support, and we will be getting those funds over to you. And I think I'm going to extend it for one more month. So for the month of April, if you get a dream catcher, we will be donating some of those proceeds over to helping ourselves.
And all the proceeds to the Pretense of Justice go to helping ourselves to transform. In turn, will help people that are behind the wall, maybe possibly on their way behind the wall, and people that are trying to get out from behind the wall, and of course, reentry. And I kick it to Sonia for the last words.
Well, I guess my last word, I really do appreciate you guys allowing me to be on this podcast with you guys. I really enjoyed it, especially the topics, and we got to get together again because it's so much to talk about. There's so much that needs to get out there to our communities. I'm very passionate about the kids and how we can help them. And my biggest thing is, you know, parents, you know, people out there, start teaching your kids what's really going on to protect themselves in order for them to have a productive life as they get, you know, grow older. You know, pick up a book, read. Don't always listen to what everything you hear out there. Focus. You got to start teaching these kids what's really going on. And that don't mean it's always violence. It's always talking about our history and the truth of it all. So with that being said, I thank you guys for allowing me to come on, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time.
We'll see you in 3 weeks. Love and peace. Bye.
Peace and love, fam.